Hi, welcome back to Inside the Artist Studio. I'm Cheryl Gleason, and today my guest is Christine Kerr. Christine, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Cheryl.
So, another one of our local artists, right here in Rancho, Cordova. Tell us a little bit of your art background. Where did you go to school? Are you self-taught? How did your art career come about?
So I guess I've always done some kind of art since I was a kid. We had this cool playroom my mom decorated when my dad went off on a fishing trip. And so as long as I can remember, there was always a fun place. It was something cool to do, but not like I was thinking of it as a career.
Right.
I studied photography in high school, which was cool, but I didn't go into college planning to study it, and then I changed my major. And I went to San Francisco State and emphasized in photography, but also did ceramics, metal arts, all kinds of things there.
Right.
And then I went to graduate school because I wasn't quite ready to grow up yet, and I wanted to travel. So I went to Slade School of Fine Art in London.
Oh.
And
is that where you graduated from?
That's where I got my master's, yeah.
Wow. What a great opportunity.
Yeah, you can't really put a price tag on that.
No. Oh, that is like a dream come true. I would love to do that. I always wanted to do a year abroad if I ever went to school, which I actually did end up going, but there was that whole thing of I worked all the way through. Mm-hmm. So going to Florence to do a year abroad just didn't really just pan out. But.
Right. So it was about 2.5 years, student loans. I did work, but at least I don't know how it is now. They did not have a minimum wage. Yeah. So I worked at the Barbican Center and, set people at concerts and things like that.
So you went to school. Now, you're a teacher.
Yes.
And where do you teach?
Christian Brothers High School.
I have had the pleasure and the opportunity to juror the LaSalle show at Christian Brothers, and I got to say that your students are absolutely amazing. We've had some of them here. Some of them actually belong to Rancho Cordova Arts. And do you get inspiration from your students seeing them work to do your own work?
Absolutely. They're probably one of my biggest inspirations.
How so?
Not just their creativity, but their ability to work through the struggle, figure things out, problem solve. It's exciting being part of that journey with them.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to work harder seeing them.
Yeah. Now, when did you start describing yourself as an artist? Was it like after you graduated, yes, I'm an artist, or when did you, no? Okay.
I did art, but,
I wasn't an
artist until actually I started showing and selling art.
Yeah.
Then it's like, I guess I am. And then when I did the first open studios and they give you the little badge, this is like, ask the artist, it's like, I guess I'm the artist.
I know it is funny how we kind of need that outside validation as artists to sort of solidify. I mean, not everybody does. Some people, believe in themselves right away. And then there's some that amazing artists that don't believe in themselves enough. So it's a fine balance, really. Mine was, definitely when I sold my first piece of work. I'm like, okay. I even tried to psych myself up by putting you are an artist on my wall. Have you ever done something to sort of boost your level of confidence like that?
Not really. I probably need to, but I know
you probably don't if you are not thinking about it.
No, nothing. I definitely think of myself more as I'm an art teacher who's also an artist, and maybe
art teacher is the first,
right? And maybe that's because that's where I make my income from. At this point, that could be part of it. Not that needs to define who we are, but being an artist, making art, doing something creative is definitely a core of who I am and my identity, that I need to be doing something creative.
I was so inspired by your students who, when we talked previously, I think it's every year that they can paint their teacher. It's like a fun thing that you do over there.
Well, it's become a thing, and now I totally feel validated for this. There's a story behind this. But when I gave it to our people at CB, and they put it on the CB Facebook page and said it was an annual tradition. I'm like, oh yes, it's official now. It's really a thing. So it actually started because I had students for years who would take pictures of their teachers and do weird photo manipulations and bizarre things. And then one did a funny sketchbook entry of one of the science teachers kind of reclining on one of the lab tables, and it was hilarious. And then another student, like the next year, had a picture of one of the history teachers, the seniors, or someone had dressed him up in this little Bo Peep costume. He's at the podium with his goatee and everything. And I was like, okay, you guys, this is not only funny, but it's like becoming a thing. So I had talked to my honors and advanced painting class, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of becoming a thing. What do you guys think about doing this? And so honors was like, no, we have to do this. And so we rearranged the schedule so we could do this. And I'm like, we got to write our statements and put this up. And I made it optional for advanced painting. And it was, the teachers loved it. And so it's become a thing.
So spectacular. And the couple students did you, but one put you in your painting. I felt like it was the truest of Bob Ross moments. I mean, it was so
awesome.
Great. It was so great. They nailed your painting.
Yes. I mean, the colors, I'm looking at it on my screen, and the painting's on the wall.
Right.
And it was like, how on earth
I
did
at first
she do
thought
that?
it was Photoshop when I scrolled through it, because your palette, you have, if I look at your art, you have a certain color palette that you use often.
Yes.
Did that start with the colors that appeal to you? Is it the settings or places?
I think it's the feelings and associations. So when I first started painting, and I was kind of doing more like what's in the photo reference, but I wasn't getting anything from it. It wasn't
so you were
feeling
using
right.
a picture.
Yeah, and I do tend to I work hopefully as much as possible from my own photos, and when I can't, I try to get multiple references and tweak them and crop them and do all these things to make it my own and use my own colors. But it just, the more I painted, the more the colors I was feeling came out. And I'm definitely always been a high contrast kind of person.
Yeah,
but,
high chroma.
Right.
Like saturated color.
Yeah, and then I've also found, I mean, it's part of it is how I'm feeling at the time, and there are certain things that are sort of me, like I'm the Indian yellow in the painting. There's always there's contrast, and it's like no matter how dark things are around it, it's like there's this little spark of something that won't give up. The ant with the rubber tree plant or something. I don't know if it's stubbornness or tenacity or something that
Would you say,
me.
okay, so I'm gonna just really reach out on a limb here. Do you dress in wild colors?
No. I do have some funny Vans. I do have a collection of weird Vans.
But they're shoes.
But they're shoes.
Okay,
the clothes are neutral. Typically black,
Blacks,
gray,
grays,
some khakis.
blues.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not I'm not one of those out there art people who has bright colors.
I find this very fascinating because I used to paint in a lot of bright primary colors, but I would never ever wear those colors.
Right, some other part of you or some,
that
I don't know what it is.
wants to express this very colorfulness, so we put it on canvas instead of it. I just find that I've finally found somebody that's simpatico with the way I sort of paint, and
because people are surprised. It's like, I remember when my kids were little and they always thought, well, your favorite colors, why don't you wear it?
Why don't you? Yeah,
and of course they were obsessed with pink and purple, and now they won't be caught dead in it. But I'm definitely a neutral, typically wearing black kind of person. When I did photography, it was mostly black and white, high contrast.
Yeah. So when I look at your art, it's that they are places, either well-known or iconographic locations in Southern California. Is that where you grew up, or did the majority of your...
I never really know where to say where I'm from, but I did live at 2 different times in my life in LA, so they're all places that are significant to me.
Okay.
Places I've been and have some
so
kind
the
of
amphitheater.
Right, the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
I saw Ray Charles there in the late 90s.
Oh, wow.
It was really cool. And then when I was working on it, because at this point my studio is my dining room. So it'll be on this easel there as I'm working on it. And, we'd have my parents over for dinner. And then I found out they went there, I don't know, multiple times when they were dating back in the 60s. I never knew that before. So it's kind of fun to find their stories and their associations
about
with
these places
things.
you paint.
So some of them I lived in LA till I was 7, and then we moved to Morro Bay, went to San Francisco, went to London, went back to LA. Then after 5 years started dating my husband, and I've lived in Sacramento since. So I know some of my students are like, "What? You've lived in all these places. Why do you live here?" I'm like, love is powerful.
Love is powerful. It
But also I've
absolutely is.
camped my whole life. So then a lot of the Yosemite and other places like that are from
Now
places
I'm getting
I've
the
camped.
mountain sort of, and
Right.
the
And
landscape
landscapes
that-
are a lot more forgiving than architecture. But
Yeah.
I can't, it's like you got to paint what you got to paint. It's like painting little people frustrates me. But sometimes they have to be in there because like if you painted like with pinks, I couldn't not have the people. The whole idea is there's always a line of people there. Always. And people, their Pink's hot dog is so important to them that they'll be like, "Oh, we're going to miss that show. It's okay. We'll go to the next one." Their Pink's hot dog is more important than making it to the movie they were planning to see. So, and then there's the whole thing with Orson Welles, holds the record for the most hot dogs eaten, and it's just totally grotesque. And here I'm not a moral vegetarian, but I don't eat meat. But I had to take my husband there when we were dating because he's totally into hot dogs. So it was like, okay, I've got to take him to Pink. So, that, and then like the LAX encounter, I've been there a few times with like my sister and one of my friends, and I took Tim there when we were first dating. There was a restaurant there.
You have emotional ties to these places.
And so the colors kind of signify that too.
Okay, all right. So, what are you working on now?
So right now I'm working on the Fremont Theater, which is like an Art Deco kind of theater that's in San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
And
We'll maybe see that in open studios?
hopefully I better. It's time to bust a move and finish that thing and have it all ready. So that's a fun place. That was the rite of passage thing growing up, was to get to go to the midnight movie that they would have there. So that was pretty fun. Now I'm probably asleep before that comes on, but
Yeah,
at
it
the
never
time,
lasts
that was
today.
important. And that picture, like I've gone down at different times, but it's never been the right time or whatever to get a photo. And I was driving through with Larissa, and it was night, and I had a red light. I'm trying to get it, and then I hand her the camera. I'm like, "Quick, get a picture as we go around the corner," And so my daughter took the main reference photo I'm working with.
Nice. So when you were going through school and studying and even now, what are some of the genres that may have shaped you as an artist or that you really love to look at?
I love a lot of different types of art. I studied more art history than I needed to.
You and me both.
But
I loved it.
But the things that really grab me the most, and it could be abstract, it could be figurative, it could be all kinds of things. I really love things that just kind of make me feel something. It isn't necessarily that it's so colorful, although I love the Fauves and the German Expressionists that really, I don't know.
The German Expressionists were extremely colorful.
Right, and their brushwork. And even though I don't paint like that, there's something about it. And sometimes it's something you can't place. Or even like the woodcuts and stuff, which isn't stuff I do, but it still you felt some kind of passion. You feel it coming through there.
It's funny because you studied photography. You use reference photos for much of the work you do. But what you really love is the painterliness of some of these folks, and some of these genres like Expressionism, German Expressionism, the Blue Rider, the Impressionists themselves. Have you ever tried to paint looser?
Sometimes, but then it just, like, you try different things and you figure out what you like and you don't like, and some things you can admire in other people, and it's just not what needs to come out of you, or at least out of me.
Yeah.
But that's an important thing.
But isn't it, do you ever find yourself at odds with that? Like,
oh, definitely.
Because I, for a very long time, found myself at odds of, I could not paint painterly, but I wanted to because I love that style of painting, and You know, I look at people like Eileen Neuer that does these beautiful Australian landscapes, and her work is so painterly. And I'm just like, how does she do that?
Right.
You know? And I figured out what it is. It's the paintbrush. Now that I've moved towards abstraction, I don't use a paintbrush anymore. So now I feel more expressive.
Different brushes. I mean, I think people find their favorites. It's like tons of brushes. And, you know, just even if it, like to anyone else, they might throw out that brush because it seems pretty crummy. You know exactly how to use it. Now I'm starting to sound like my dad with mechanical things. But, you know, it's like you know just how to make it work to do what you need. And, I have probably like a half a dozen brushes that I work with those brushes. Although the detail brushes, even though I hate dealing with
those kind of come and go because they get...
I think I'm too shaky or something. So I admire people who can do such things, but it's sketchy. But I have probably like a dozen different ones, and you got to find just the right one to make it work.
It's true.
But caffeine intake can really impact your ability to make detail work.
Yeah, you know, caffeine and I don't know about you, but as I get older and my eyes start to not be as good, that's really affected.
Light is key.
The detail work of in my art. So, yeah, I can respect that very much.
Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe as I age, there'll be more just really loose landscapes.
Yeah,
but
maybe we've just found the key to painting loosely.
Right, you can't see it's blurry.
And just
take out the contacts, it's all good.
We might be onto something there. Which one of your pieces is your favorite of your work?
My work. Probably the Griffith Observatory. But
is it because it's an emotional attachment or because it was just your best painting?
I don't even know if it's necessarily the best painting. I figured a lot of things out in the process of it, and maybe that's I put so much into and
so
there
you
were
had a love-hate relationship all the way through.
Especially when I was putting in the city lights and I'm all casual about it, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, that's 2-point perspective and it's off. And so I had to cover up all this stuff and redo it, and all these people kept saying, no one's going to notice. It's fine. And I'm like, anyone who knows anything about perspective, it's going to bug them. And it's bugging me, and that's the bottom line. It's bugging me. So I fixed it to where it works enough without looking like a perspective thing. But you've got to find that balance of being loose enough and it visually making sense.
Yeah. What's the most important when somebody's looking at your work? What's the most important thing that you want that viewer to connect? How do I put this? Do you want the viewer to connect to the piece in any way, or is there something, or do you want them to get a message from the piece? How is it that you want people to interact with your
I think just
art?
That they connect somehow. I don't really need them to get a message. Hopefully they enjoy it. I guess it's not like my intention when I start painting. I mean, I paint it for me, but at the same time, it's like just if you want to sell something, you better make something someone else can connect to, or they're going to not want it. It's cool that other people see it and know that spot and have their own stories and stuff to put in there.
Right.
And that, they've been there and they want to have that to remind them of whatever. So their memories are probably different than mine, but it happens to be the location or whatever.
Right, because so many of them are locations for you.
Right. So they're places like, okay, pretty much everyone's been to Yosemite for one, but even like I did one that was coming down from Mount Tam, and my cousin bought it from me because she and her husband had been there and done that same hike, and they had a connection to that.
So have you been to Utah yet?
I have.
Have you painted any of the Utah landscape like Bryce or Zion or anything like that?
No, but once I have not been to those particular parks. See,
Oh.
I've been like on
Oh.
the across the salt flats where that was the only time I really ever had to use cruise control, so I wouldn't get a speeding ticket. But I really do want to go see.
Yeah, because
I've
I
heard so
look
much about
at
Zion.
the landscapes and these points that you do, these, whether it's the Hollywood Bowl or the observatory or the pizza place that's down in Los Angeles, which that's my favorite one of yours. But I think about when I was on vacation, I was thinking about you and thinking, oh, this would be one of those you are in such awe that you have to come
Right.
back and
No,
document
it's definitely on my bucket list of places to go, and I kind of have this thing like I feel like because the connection is so important. I like to have my own reference photos if possible,
Absolutely.
and two, then I see it and get different things that I can bring into it. But
Yeah.
absolutely, and we just recently went camping up on the Oregon coast, and we
Oh.
hiked Humbug Mountain. Was about the coolest
Humbug?
thing. Humbug Mountain. Don't be deterred by the name. It was gorgeous every step of the way.
Nice.
So, and
Well,
then
it's
you get
Oregon.
this incredible view. And maybe we lucked out on the weather that it was clear enough
Yeah.
when we were up there, but absolutely beautiful. So I think that's in my near future. And, just got to
Good.
keep camping and exploring.
Now, you are one of our artists for this year's Open Studios here at the MAC. You are one of 9. We're working on the Fremont picture that will hopefully be ready in time. If not, she'll be painting it while she's here. What else can we expect to see in Open Studios? What other delights are you going to bring us? Do you have any?
Let's see. Well, I sold my Mount Tam painting, so you'll only get to see prints of that.
Okay.
What else? Hopefully, the other things that are in the very near future that have definitely been on my mind. San Francisco, Cafe Trieste, and the City Lights bookstore.
Cafe Trieste.
I mean, my roommate and I would take a train and a bus across town for an hour, and we'd go get our book at the bookstore, and then we'd go over to Cafe Trieste and have a coffee and
That's
read
an
our
iconic
books.
spot.
And so we went there not too long ago. Took the kids and
Took some photos.
took some photos. And
Nice.
I've noticed the paint job is reversed from the other reference pictures I have. So I haven't decided, do I want the red with the green or the green with the red, or however. I'll probably make it my own thing anyway. But those are a couple of things, and of course, architecture and perspective again. But you deal with it and just get it right, but then make it more painterly so it doesn't look like a perspective drawing, so to speak.
Yeah. Do you have your own website?
I do.
What is
so
it?
it's ChristineKerrArt.com.
ChristineKerrArt.com. Now, how up to date is your website?
It could use a facelift.
So
But
it's so funny.
I did finally. I think I added the Mount Tam picture to the gallery.
It's so funny because I have been exploring this with the last few artists, and we all have agreed, with the exception of one, that is our least favorite part of, it's like pulling teeth. It's like, no, don't. Oh God, I gotta do it.
Updating it is. I just am lazy about it. Creating the thing.
Yeah.
It was not like making a photo book on Shutterfly at all. It was not user friendly. I don't think web design. I don't know what kind of. And I respect people that know how to do it. It was not an easy task for me, but I got through it. And that's the important thing is, I'm eat your words. You're always telling the kids to work through the struggle. So I had to figure it out. And my husband would be like, why don't you Google it? But you do, and you make it work. And then hopefully you remember how to do it the next time you go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you on Instagram or Facebook?
I am.
Okay.
So
What's your Instagram handle?
It's all Christine Kerr Art with the little underscore in between. But
Awesome.
I think it'll find it.
All right.
without-
So definitely follow Christine if you like some of her art and want to see what she's got upcoming. Now, summer is your most productive time because you're a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would imagine this is your big push, and then you sort of lay up during the school
During
year.
the school year, it's more like playing around with ideas in my sketchbook and doing preliminary drawings, color schemes, things like that. And sometimes I am working on things during the school year, but the main productive time of actually working on big paintings tends to be in the summer.
Yeah. I think that's just another reason why I don't feel as bad that I didn't become an art teacher, because the productivity definitely falls, I feel, in a lot of the artists, teachers that I've described. This is why they go on sabbatical. I now have learned that this is what sabbatical's for an artist. You teach your students all kinds of different methods and materials and things, but what's your primary source or primary material that you like to paint with? Is it oil? Is it acrylic? Is it watercolor? Oil.
So, I mean, I play around with acrylic. It's fine if it's small, like in my sketchbook, but it frustrates me to no end.
The fast drying time?
The fast drying, if I'm trying to go larger and really work my paint, even with retarder, it's just
too much.
It's too much. So I love oil paint for larger paintings. And then, it's just nice to mix things up. So I used to do a fair amount of watercolor, and then I had kids, and that was not easy to leave out. So I would like to play around with that a little more. Charcoal, any of these things, it's like when you get away from it and you haven't done it in a long time, it's like you're going, whoa, I thought I was proficient at this, but again, it's like, the riding a bike or swimming. It's not that you totally forgot, it's just you're out of shape. So then you get back into it, and
you got to work those muscle memory.
And then it starts working out. You're like, okay, I can do this. Cool. So, and it just breaks things up and freshens things up, trying something either different and new, like when I did a glass blowing workshop, or just revisiting something you haven't done in a long time, like playing around with ceramics. It just freshens.
I totally
things up
agree, and it enhances that which you were working on before. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree. Well, Christine, thank you so much for being with us today and telling us about your process and how you do your art. We got to see some of your art. For those of you interested, come see Christine Kerr here at the MAC on 17th, 18th, and 19th of September during Open Studios. We have a preview night on the 17th, and then the 18th and 19th are the regular Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 5. She often also does art at the in Rancho Cordova. Do you have anything for the upcoming abstract show?
I don't have anything for the abstract show,
okay.
But that fall open show is coming up.
The fall open show is coming up.
To that. So it's always great to have these opportunities, both at the MAC and at City Hall through Rancho Cordova.
Yeah, we have some amazing artists. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me for this.
Yeah, we want to expose our community to all the amazing artists that we have in it. And so with that, I will say adieu and keep staying creative. This is Cheryl Gleason. You have just seen another episode of Inside the Artist Studio. Bye.
Bye.